What's good, everybody? It's the 330 to go Hoops Wire NBA show. We've got all kinds of stuff to talk about. Pretty decent week, right? Cavs, we figured out, have hired a coach, which was big news, which is what they spent, seemed like a long time trying to figure out and do this offseason. Then they had a draft pick. Talked about that a little bit. All the media met with Mike Gansey, the general manager, after the draft on Wednesday, the first round. And what else we got going on? We got some free agency coming up. Don't know that the Cavaliers will be big players in that, but could be players in it when it comes to trades and other smaller moves, maybe a big move. Who knows? This is the NBA offseason. It's unpredictable. People always say, what are the odds the Cavs make a trade? Or what are the odds my favorite team makes a trade? And I always say, trades, you can't predict trades. It's not predictable because you need two people, right? You need, let's say the Cavaliers, Kobe Altman wants to make a trade. He's got to get, cooperation from at least one other general manager. And if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt as Billy Beane, the Oakland A's general manager at the time. And there's a scene there where Brad Pitt's on the phone with one GM, putting him on hold, getting another GM on the phone, putting him on hold. They come close to a deal. They say, no, thanks. They hang up and they act like the conversation is over. And then they call each other back. Let me talk to my owner. It's craziness. I'm not predicting that. I'm not saying, yeah, they'll make a trade. Or no, they're not making a trade. Because you don't know until the very moment. So, with that in mind, let's first talk about Kenny Atkinson, the new Cavaliers coach, coming over from the Golden State Warriors as an assistant. Barely beat out James Borrego, who still is the New Orleans Pelicans assistant. But Kenny Atkinson, to me, either one of those guys would have been fine as the hire. Either one. I think that they both have, obviously, they both have experience. I thought both did a good job in their former situations, even though they kind of got, I think they kind of got the shaft from their teams from before. Kenny Atkinson, of course, with the Brooklyn Nets, was there for a few years. Didn't have a winning record, but had a nice run when the Nets kind of gutted the team. Then brought in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And that just was not, that wasn't fluid for anybody. Didn't work out for Kenny Atkinson. Didn't work out for Steve Nash, who followed. Didn't work out for Jock Vaughn, who followed. Then they finally blew it up. Finally got rid of Kyrie and Kevin Durant. And guess what? Kyrie was just back in the finals. Kevin Durant can't get out of the first round. So, that was probably a lot less to do with coaching the Nets for Kenny Atkinson than it was about the roster construction. And now with Kenny Atkinson too, in terms of the way that he was able to lead a young Nets team to the playoffs before all that. That's where I was impressed. Jarret Allen, Caris, LaVert were on that team. And really like Kenny Atkinson. They got in the playoffs, probably had no business being there. And they are big fans. Jarret Allen, Caris LeVert, big fans. Guess what? From everything I've heard, Donovan Mitchell liked Kenny Atkinson, signed off on Kenny Atkinson when asked. What do you think of this guy? Oh, yeah, I like him. Good. Go for it. I don't know if that was the exact conversation, but he did sign off. Everything I've heard. They weren't going to put it this way. The Cavs weren't about to hire a coach that Donovan Mitchell doesn't like. That was their goal. So, you want to keep your star player. He's got a contract extension coming up. All signs are pointing towards him signing that. So you want to hire a coach that at least he knows and is fine with. And Donovan Mitchell is not one of these stars who it's all about me all the time. He's not. I think he wants to be the face of the Cavaliers. He's good enough to be the face of the Cavaliers. He knows he's earned that, right? But he's not all about me all the time. He's just not. He's one of those selfless stars who's just a good dude. And I think anybody who's seen him on social media or sees him in interviews knows he's salt of the earth, good guy. Really is. The Cavs are very fortunate. They've got a superstar like that to, kind of not only set the tone on the court, but in the locker room by being a great teammate, and he's a great individual player. So, it's good that he particularly seems to like Kenny Atkinson. It's good that Jarret Allen and Caris LaVert wanted Kenny Atkinson and had played for him before. So, to me, that's a huge part of a coaching hire. Not do the players like him, but do they respect him? And it seems like Kenny Atkinson has a lot of respect from around the league. Guess what else he has? I know some Cavs fans aren't going to want to hear this, but guess what else Kenny Atkinson has? A championship ring from 2 years ago, right? Golden State Warriors assistant coach. Or is it 3 years now? I guess it'd be 2 seasons because it was the Warriors, then the Nuggets, and now the Celtics. So I don't know. I can't count past 2. I don't know whether it's 2 or 3. Is that 3 years? 3 seasons. Okay, we'll go with 3 seasons. But so there we are with Kenny Atkinson winning a championship with the dreaded Golden State Warriors, if you're a Cavs fan. And I'm assuming that most of you tune into this are. So he has a championship ring. And one thing that really stands out to me about the Warriors and Steve Kerr coaching under him was you look at Mike Brown when he was with the Cavs. You know what he used to tell me? I love ugly basketball. The uglier the game, the better. And anybody who watched the Cavs with Mike Brown, yes, they were very ugly offensively. They were outstanding defensively, but they brought the game down to a grind. Even with LeBron James, even with when LeBron was here in 2005 to 2010, which was Mike Brown's first coaching stint with the Cavs, they played an ugly style of basketball. But now, so Mike Brown eventually, and then Mike Brown, of course, came back 2013-14 season, 1 year, really ugly style of basketball. Mike Brown with who? Kyrie Irving, Dion Waiters, Anderson Varejao, a young Tristan Thompson. That was a 2013-14 Cavs, and they were scrappy. If you remember that team, they were very scrappy. You know what else to remember about that season? What I remember is, and I'm going to go off on a little tangent here for storytelling time, and then we'll go back to Kenny Atkinson and free agency, and the Cavs made a draft pick. We'll talk about that too. But first, it's going to be story time. 2013-14 season, the Cavs were playing the Lakers at home, a terrible Lakers team. And Chris Grant, then the general manager of the Cavs, we always talked. He was always nice. We had a good relationship. But for the first time before that game, I ran into him. He stopped me and just started talking to me about life, and started talking to me about my family, and started talking to me, very personable conversation. It was the most personable conversation we had that lasted like 20 minutes. And it was just shooting the breeze. So the Cavs ended up losing that game to the Lakers. And it was bad because the Lakers only had 4 players at the end, even though they played 5. But everybody had fouled out. They were already shorthanded. And the Cavs still lost that game. I'll never forget Chris Kaman. Remember him? The big blonde-headed center was stretched out on the bench, lying down on the bench because he had fouled out. And instead of, that was his protest. He was going to lay down on the bench. And it was just an ugly scene as far as basketball goes. Cavs just not look good. They were fading. They were waning. And then after the game, the next morning, the Cavs fired Chris Grant. So that was the last time I really talked to him other than saw him here and there say hello. The Cavs former GM. They fired him the next day. It was pretty late in the season. They named David Griffin interim GM, if you remember that. So The Cavs' next game was at Washington. I hopped in the car and drove down there. Because I remember they were playing the Wizards in Washington 2 days later. So I had enough time to get down there. And that's what I did. Hopped in the car, drove down there. I remember had a night off because Jason Lloyd and I hit the city in Washington, in D.C., downtown. Had a great time. You guys who know maybe Jason Lloyd from The Athletic, fantastic writer. Actually, my son will tell me Jason Lloyd is his favorite NBA writer. It's fine. Whatever. I mean, he gets grounded, but he has told me that before. So anyway, Cavs played the Wizards. I went to the game, and, David Griffin, interim GM, and I remember going in the locker room, and it was just me and another reporter, maybe Jason Lloyd at that time, or Jason may have been around somewhere else, but I know it was me and another guy in the locker room, and David Griffin said, I want the team to start having fun again. Just start having fun, because it's not been fun around here. And guess what? I think the Cavs, they won that game in Washington, and really you could see a culture change under David Griffin. And then they won like 7 of 8. Maybe it was 6 of 7, but it was an impressive run. And you wouldn't think firing the general manager would have anything to do with that. I just know that Dan Gilbert was so mad that they lost that game at home against the Lakers that he just wanted to fire somebody. And it wasn't going to be Mike Brown, because they had just brought Mike Brown back. So he's like, all right, fire the GM. He's the one who told me to bring back Mike Brown. Okay, there's actually a point to all that, which is Mike Brown, ugly style basketball, was fired by David Griffin like hours after the season, 2013-14 season ended. And I knew that. It wasn't his hire. And he didn't like the ugly style of basketball. And it wasn't working that great. But I always thought Mike Brown was a pretty good coach. So then he goes to Golden State, becomes an assistant there with Steve Kerr. Well, guess what? Mike Brown, now the head coach of the Sacramento Kings, which, by the way, are the NBA's oldest franchise. First franchise, Sacramento Kings. Remember that. Use it. Impress your friends. They started as the Rochester Royals. Everybody thinks Celtics and Knicks are the oldest franchises. Sacramento Kings were the first professional basketball club, organization formed ever. 1940-something. Believe it or not, it was before me. I know that's hard to believe. But anyway, so Mike Brown went to Golden State Warriors, loved ugly basketball, coached under Steve Kerr for a while. Now the head coach of the Sacramento Kings. Guess what they play? Probably the best offensive basketball in the Western Conference. Highest scoring team. They get up and down. They move the ball. They're what the Cavs should want to become in terms of the way the ball moves. I think the Cavs are a better team when healthy. I think their roster is better than Sacramento, and Sacramento has some great players. De'Aaron Fox. I love the guy. Lefty out of Kentucky, their point guard. My LinkedIn friend. He likes when I post stuff on LinkedIn, every once in a while, he'll like it if it's about the Kings and positive. So that's my guy, De'Aaron Fox. Domantas Sabonis. I mean, those guys have a pretty good roster, but I think the Cavs roster is better when they're healthy. Cavs went further in the playoffs this year. Granted, it was the Eastern Conference. The West is probably a little bit more of a war, but the East is no joke. Cavs know that. They're going to be approaching this off season like that. So Kenny Atkinson may be a different coach and an even better coach than when he, was fired from Brooklyn, then went to the Clippers for a year, and then he went to Golden State. And we saw the transformation of Mike Brown, how he went from ugly basketball to beautiful basketball in Sacramento after spending some time with the Warriors. That's the idea. That's what the Cavs wanted in a coach. They want somebody who's going to make their offense beautiful because they believe they have the talent. Now, that's going to lead to a lot of other things, right? You've got things to decide on Darius Garland. You first got to get Donovan Mitchell to sign that contract extension. But if the Cavs were to run it back, and I think that's a distinct possibility, I said extinct, which would mean it's not a possibility and the team vaporizes. But I think it's a distinct possibility that the Cavaliers bring back the majority of their guys, their core four. I think it's a strong possibility, frankly. I really do. I know we've heard the talk about Darius Garland requesting a trade if Donovan Mitchell signs that contract extension. I think that's a possibility. I can tell you Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell love each other. They're great pals. But they don't, there are questions about their fit on the court. Does Darius's camp believe that Donovan's style of play is holding Darius back? I don't know. They haven't said. So anything else is a guessing game. But I do think that the Cavs are open to running it back. And why not? I know fans are like, oh, they got to trade Garland. They got to do this. You have all the way till February to do that. See how it goes under a new coach. If it doesn't work under a new coach, then guess what? It's not the coach. That's something to keep in mind. So maybe see how it goes. People say the Cavs need a wing player. I think they do. A wing player with size. I agree. But I don't know that you have to break up everything to go get one. Cam Johnson. People love Cam Johnson from the Nets. He's available. I think the Nets want picks. I think they want draft picks in that trade. The Cavs don't have any to give. Not after the Donovan Mitchell deal. So that would be a tough way for them to go. And the Nets, I don't know that they would want Darius Garland. I don't know that. I don't know if that would be in the deal or not, but you would think you could get Cam Johnson for a lot less, but who knows? There are going to be a lot of teams if Cam Johnson is available because he's 6'8" and can bury outside shots. That's about all he does, but he's good at it. There are going to be a lot of teams on the lookout for a player like that. And a lot of other teams are going to have a lot more picks to offer. That's what the Nets are doing. They're cleaning house, and they want draft picks. So, by the way, Jordi Fernandez, former Cleveland Charge coach, long-time Cavs employee as a coach, assistant to Charge, whatever. Now the head coach of the Nets. He got the job. 3 weeks later, they trade their best player for draft picks. Good luck, Jordy. You just got your first NBA head coaching job. Now we're going to gut the roster, and by the time we get the picks, the team will be so bad, we'll be losing a lot of games. You will take the blame, and you'll probably get fired before those picks ever become any good. But I guess if you want to be a head coach bad enough, you're going to take it. So good for him. Really good guy. Back to Kenny Atkinson. That's what the Cavs wanted. They wanted to hear, here's my plans for the offense. Cavs are great defensively. Very good. Very good defensively. Most teams would kill for that front court of Evan Mobley and Jarret Allen protecting the basket. Most teams don't have that kind of those kind of shot alterers at the rim. It makes it not such a big deal if the guards get beat off the dribble and then other guards go into the lane. Well, guess who's there waiting for you? 2 really good shot blockers, 2 really good position defenders, 2 really good rebounders. You don't want to change that. I know people say, well, they got to trade Allen or Mobley because they, Allen crowds it down low for Mobley. The Cavs, you make that work. Jarret Allen's a double-double machine who doesn't need the basketball. He doesn't care if he gets the basketball. You're going to find another center like that. Mobley needs to extend his range a little bit. They'll work. It worked in Mobley's rookie year. If you remember, like those first 30 games or so, it really worked. I don't know what happened since. It's not been terrible. It's just not been as good as it could be. And I think that's because Evan Mobley's not as good as he could be. And that's why Kenny Atkinson was brought in. Get this guy to the level we believe he can be. People say, well, he's improving little by little. Yeah, the Cavs don't want that. They drafted this guy to be an all-star and a franchise changer. And he has that upside. He's got to bring it out. That was part of the interview. I can tell you that right now. What are you going to do to bring out the best in Evan Mobley? How are we going to get him to the level he needs to be, assuming Donovan Mitchell's back too? And Mitchell's fantastic, but let's face it, he's a little ball dominant. That impacts big guys. There used to be a saying that LeBron James around the league, his power forwards are never going to be as good as they can be because he's so ball dominant. And you looked at every power forward that he had played with was worse than the previous situation. Chris Bosh, still good, just not what he was in Toronto when he went to Miami. Kevin Love, still good, just not what he was when he played in Minnesota. There was another two or three power forwards in there who had been good, who just didn't play well with LeBron. I think that was more coincidence. But, sometimes when you have more ball-dominant guys, it makes it tough on the big men. The good news is Jarret Allen doesn't care. He'll do his scoring off the lobs and putbacks. He doesn't care. And yet he set the franchise record for double-doubles. And one of those doubles was points. So, to me, you trade Jarret Allen, you got a massive hole to fill. You got a massive hole to fill with a massive personality that Donovan Mitchell likes. There are a lot of things to consider. I know we get crazy on trades, and the NBA does too. I think a lot of GMs have ADHD. I do too. But I'm not running a team, and I'm not going to, trade away my roster. I just think that's bad. I don't think Kobe Altman is one of those GMs. I think he's, look, the Cavs are going where they should have gone, right? Play-in tournament, first round, second round. Next year, Eastern Conference Finals. I know Cleveland fans. And I get it. I get the psychology behind it. When the Cavs went to the playoffs, they'd go to the finals every time. But that's what Cavs fans are used to. We get in the playoffs, we better get to the finals. That's what we do. Well, that was because you had a once-in-a-generation player in LeBron James. It doesn't work like that for most teams. That's why every year in the finals, we've had different matchups. We had Milwaukee, Phoenix, right? And then Golden State, Boston. And then Denver, Miami. Now Boston, Dallas. So we're having different matchups every year. This isn't Cleveland, Golden State 4 straight years. Or Golden State getting to the finals every other year. Their run's over. I know that's probably the favorite thing I've said on this show to Cavs fans. Golden State run's over. I've heard they might try and make a run at unrestricted free agent Paul George. Good luck. Still not going anywhere. Time is up. Happens to all of us. Happens to all, especially athletes. Sometime your time's up. LeBron's time, probably up. Great player. Still love watching him play. Still tune in, watch him play. It's over. No more titles. Not with that organization. He'd go to Dallas. I mean, he can be an unrestricted free agent. He plans to opt out. Why not go to Dallas? If you want to win more titles, you're not going to win them with the Lakers. You're going to get a lot of buzz with the Lakers. They're the most marketed team, most talked about team. But you know what? That's going to be the case wherever LeBron goes. That was the way it was in Cleveland when he was there. So if I'm him, and you know what else I find funny about LeBron? People said he went to LA to make movies and do all that stuff too on the side. He hasn't done that out there. He did it in Cleveland. He was like a media mogul in Cleveland. In LA? No. You know why? Because the real celebrities will shut you down. They do. I mean, not that I would know, but that's what I've read and figured out on my own. He's not done anything media-wise notable other than his podcast with JJ Redick, which he could do in Cleveland. He could do that in Dayton. Doesn't matter where he is when you're doing a podcast, So I just find it interesting that there's really been no pickup in his in kind of his movies, being in movies. He was in a movie when he was with the Cavaliers, right? I can't remember what it was called. I never saw it. And then he went to LA and did Space Jam. And that's all I know. He has a really, I mean, most of the stuff produced by his company, and I'm so sorry for forgetting the name of his company, but most of that stuff's pretty good. I've watched almost everything they've done, and I thought it was really well done. But most of that stuff was done while he was in Cleveland. LA, he won the title in the Walt Disney World Auxiliary Gym, the Lakers. Was it a real title? Sure. I know it came in August and it came with no fans. And it came all in the same place. I felt like it was Summer League when the NBA did that in the bubble. But they had to do it because they had to honor their television contract. Otherwise, they would have lost way too much money. So they figured it out. Good for them. Got it done in the bubble. Does the title come with an asterisk? To me, a little bit, yes. And I normally don't say that. Either way, back to the Cavaliers. No, LeBron's not coming back. They just drafted Bronny. The Lakers just drafted Bronny. Fine, you picked them at 55. What else were you going to do? Get a draft and stash player? Somebody who goes overseas? I think it's fine. You did your superstar a favor. And, Bronny probably thinks it's super cool. So yes, there's basketball involved, but it's also life. And that's a cool thing to me. The guy getting to play with his kid. Even if I know his kid wasn't any good, he doesn't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But this is also about life. I just think if you're the Lakers, it has nothing to do with Bronny. You hired JJ Redick as coach. They're approaching it, and who was it? Was it Kendrick Perkins who said they're running it like it's an AAU program? LeBron's not going to carry a team anymore. LeBron's going to be 40. He's still good, but he's not carrying a team. Anthony Davis, great. 30, plays like he's 40, or he plays young, but he's always injured. So you feel like he's 40 half the time. So I just don't know why LeBron wants to be there other than it's the Lakers. And if that's his reason, fine. Okay. But you're not winning any more titles, and your career's winding down. So back to the Cavaliers. Draft pick. I wrote about this in the dribbles on HoopsWire. I didn't know the guy. I had him going in the second round. Jaylon Tyson, 6'5.5" out of Cal. Was definitely the best player on a very young team. Mike Gansey said it. He had to do it all for them. Cal is coached by Mark Matson. I don't know if any of you remember him. Mad Dog, they called him. Played for the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. Was kind of the hustle, energy, Anderson Varejao, annoying guy. He's now Cal's coach. And, Mike Gansey, Kobe Altman had long conversations with him. And they felt like the fact, I asked Mike Gansey, was the fact that Mark Madsen used to play in the NBA, do you think that'll help this kid's transition? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So here's what I know about Jaylon Tyson. I'd be surprised if he plays, but a lot of it's going to happen, depend on what happens with Isaac Okoro. Because Isaac Okoro is a restricted free agent. Are you going to lose him? Could. You could, or are you going to re-sign him? Then you run the risk of going into the tax apron, which Mike Gansey talked about that. That severely limits everything you can do in this new collective bargaining agreement. If you're over the tax now, you can't sign buyout candidates. Every year after the trade deadline, players will get bought out, right? Veteran players will get bought out, and I've got a flood of DMs and texts. Are the Cavs going to sign this bought out guy? Remember Andrew Bogut, who lasted 27 seconds with the Cavs before breaking his leg? He was a buyout guy. Larry Sanders, going back a ways, probably 7-8 years. Buyout candidate everybody got excited about. People get excited about these buyout candidates. You're over the tax now, you can't sign them. It's against the NBA rules. Your ability to make trades is very limited if you're over the cap. So, the Cavs have some things to think about, obviously, with Isaac Okoro. Yeah, let's talk about Jaylon. Let's talk about Jaylon Tyson. Here's what I know. He reminds me very much of one of those 6'5" guys who does a nice job of handling the ball, can facilitate. Mike Gansey said it. Mike Gansey told us. He's like, he's not a great shooter. He's a good shooter. Well, the Cavs need some outside shooting, in my opinion. I don't know. I think the reason they like this kid is because he fits their culture. He checked all the boxes when it came to this is the type of player we're looking for in the draft. And, he reminds me kind of his game of he's not as ball dominant, but I mean, in terms of what he'll be able to contribute, because he's a pretty good facilitator for a small forward type, for a wing type. He reminds me in that sense, kind of like Caris LaVert, where he's gonna be able to create for others. Now, how much he's going to contribute, put it this way. I told somebody the other day, somebody said, do you think this rookie's going to play? And I said, if he does, then things have probably gone awry. He's probably going to spend a lot of time in the G League. Now, maybe he'll surprise everybody. Listen, I went back. He was a number 20 overall pick. I went back and looked at number 20 overall picks throughout the course of NBA history. Not been real great success-wise, though there have been a few standouts. Caris LeVert, who I just mentioned, was a number 20 pick in the draft. You know who else was? Two of the most beloved players in Cavaliers franchise history, whose numbers hang in the rafters. Do you know who they are? Number 20 picks overall. Okay, time's up. I'm going to tell you. Larry Nance Sr. was a number 20 overall pick. Obviously played Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, Lenny Wilkins, those beloved teams. He was a number 20 pick. You know who else was? Zydrunas Ilgauskas, number 20 overall pick. Going way back, Roy Hinson was a number 20 overall pick by the Cavaliers. He was later flipped in a trade for the number 1 overall draft pick that became Brad Daugherty. So there are some number 20 overall picks in Cavs history that have done very well. Most number 20 overall picks, though, haven't been much. So, I don't know. Jaylon Tyson, to me, here's what I always say about the draft and what I always say about coaching hires. We'll see. We'll see. Every draft pick's going to seem like a great pick when you make it. But we don't know for 3 or 4 years whether this kid was the right pick. The number 20, it's all a crapshoot. There's nobody else I saw in the draft that I thought, boy, I wish the Cavs would have taken him. This was a weak draft class. Maybe this kid will turn into something for the Cavs. We don't know. People predict, people form opinions. That's fine. That's what sports are, but we have no idea. None of you have any idea whether this kid is going to be any good in the NBA. None. Neither do I. I bet the Cavs don't even know. I bet they think he is. They also thought Anthony Bennett was going to be a star. Not this regime, but you get the point. So Kenny Atkinson, do you like the hire, Sam? Sure. Cavs liked it. I'm never going to blast a team for a coaching hire or draft pick. Because believe it or not, they want to win way more than you or I want them to win. They're doing what they think is in the best interest of the franchise. So to me, yeah, good pick, good coaching hire. You know why? Because that's what the team wants. Now let's see if it plays out that way. I'm not gonna form an opinion ahead of time because I haven't seen Kenny Atkinson with the Cavaliers. I haven't seen Jaylon Tyson with the Cavaliers. I've seen plenty of Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jarret Allen, and Max Strus, Caris LeVert, Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade. Why I'm rattling off the roster, I have no idea. But I can tell you I've seen plenty of those guys with the Cavaliers, but I haven't seen any of them under Kenny Atkinson. So I don't know that you have to make huge trades this offseason when you have a new coach. See what he can do. See if it works. You've been making strides. Even though last season was ugly, getting to the Eastern Conference semifinals, you still got there. Now let's see if you can do it when it's not ugly. What doomed JB Bickerstaff was the fact that the Cavs always played worse after the All-Star break. That was why the Cavs ultimately decided to move on, because the team always played worse after the All-Star break every year. It wasn't all JB's fault, but as a coach, you're going to take the blame. So that's what they want to fix with this unit. They've played great many times during this regular season, December, January, but then the All-Star break comes and they just go, it was a downhill trajectory. That's what they want this coach to change. They believe this coach can do all those things. Get Evan Mobley to another level. Maybe get Darius Garland back to his all-star form. Maybe not. I mean, maybe, maybe you got to trade him. Maybe he and Mitchell don't work. Maybe you've decided that already, and I would understand that too. Wouldn't you? I don't think it's a must, though, right now in June or July or August. I don't think it's a must. It could become a must in November, December. It's not right now. But maybe they'll trade Darius Garland. Maybe they've decided, you know what, we do need a wing. We need one of those players to come in and fill the void, so to speak, at small forward. As Max Strus does a fine job. Hustle player, can knock down shots, really gets after it, treats every game like Game 7 of the playoffs. Nothing wrong with Max Strus. But maybe he's more of a shooting guard. Go out and get another small forward. In order to do that, you'd have to trade Darius Garland. And then you'd have to certainly find point guards in those deals. If not in those deals, you've got to find a way to get them. Cavs aren't going to be a big player in free agency, by the way. Just can't do it right now. Don't have the cap space to do that. Now they could capitalize on sign and trade type deals in free agency. They could find ways to make trades in free agency, and I think that they're going to keep their options open. Mike Gansey said it the other night. We're approaching this offseason. We're going to leave no stone unturned. That's what he said. We're going after it. We want to get to the next level. First order of business, sign Donovan Mitchell, which I believe is going to happen, but that you can't do anything until he's signed. And when he's signed, that's when you get aggressive, and that's where you go make your next moves. So I don't know if I'm leaving anything out, probably gone on just about 40 minutes now. Let's see. Let's check the timer. Yeah, 40 minutes and 5 seconds. Boy, do I know my show. For better or worse, I know the Hoops Wire 330 to go NBA show. I know it. I just can't say it. So I hope you guys are enjoying the Longhorn behind me, which has become a landmark, a trademark of the show. My horns over my head. So that's it. That's it. I think that the Cavs, they did what they felt like they had to do. Felt like they got the best coach in Kenny Atkinson. Like their draft pick at number 20. Now things get serious. Are they determined to trade Darius Garland? No, absolutely not. Could they trade Darius Garland? Yes. He could be traded. Are they determined not to trade Jarret Allen? Yes, they're determined not to trade him. David Griffin, who I mentioned earlier in the show, the old friend David Griffin, now running the New Orleans Pelicans, he's called Kobe Altman, his former underling, now the Cavs president of basketball operations. David Griffin wants Jarret Allen. Kobe Altman stole no dice, no deal. So I don't think Jarret Allen's going anywhere. Nor should he, because then you're going to have a massive hole to fill. Even though he's not a superstar, he had an all-star run in that second half of the year. And your star player really likes him. So that said, next week, free agency will have come and gone by the time I come to you next week. I'll have a busy Sunday night because that's when teams can start, signing. Players are going to start moving. 6 o'clock Sunday night. The NBA is going to be on the move. And then early July, you can officially sign those deals. So, it seems like my voice is going. I'm going out to lunch. And maybe I'll see you guys there. If so, I'll buy. I'm just not going to tell you where it is. That's part of the challenge. If you show up for lunch, I'll buy. If you say, hey, Amico, I came to lunch. There you are. Let's bet. I'll tell you this. It's an Akron. How's that sound? So yeah, of course I'd be eating in the 330 to go. So, yeah, I guess that's about it for today. We've got obviously a special at 11 a.m. for those of you who are watching it live. I know many of you watch it later on YouTube, and some of you stick with my ramblings the entire time. So here's what I'll say about the Cavs. You hired a coach. It's what you should have done. You made a draft pick. You needed to do that by NBA rule. Maybe the guy will be a sleeper. But, fingers crossed for that. They could use a little bit of help, right? But I think they're going to, they've got some moves in the works. May not be major. Maybe just we've got to replace Tristan Thompson and Damian Jones. Tristan's probably not going to be back. Neither is Damian Jones. I don't know what else. I don't know if is it time to give up on Isaiah Mobley? Not if it keeps his brother happy, I guess. But, there's some fringe moves that they've got to make around the edges to improve, for when players get hurt. Those guys need to step in. You need those guys, and they're going to go get them. So, with that in mind, free agency, Sunday night, keep an eye, not just on the Cavs, but the entire NBA, hoopswire.com. Obviously, draft was this week. Until last night, I think for 2 straight nights, I slept 3.5 hours. Last night, I got a good 7. And what updating every pick as they happen. I don't know who decided to do that on my website and write comments. I think it was probably some idiot like me. But I was surprised you guys really, really followed not just the first round draft tracker on Wednesday night, but yesterday, the second round, which was the middle of the day, 4 o'clock. Really did well page views wise. So, those of you who read the website, thank you. Thank you. You're the reason I'm able to do this. I think people forget that sometimes as writers. You're the absolute reason I can do this. Nobody else. Right now I'm self-employed. Guess why? Because of you. So if you don't like it and you don't like me, then stop reading the website and I will go, work at Lowe's or something. Not that there's anything wrong with working at Lowe's. I just don't know that I'd be very good at it. So just please keep reading the website. That's my whole point. With that in mind, now I'm just rambling. So free agency this weekend. It's going to be exciting. It's always an exciting time around the NBA, June and July. Wouldn't think there's no basketball going on, but it's going to be an exciting time. Then guess what? After that, we've got the Summer League, Las Vegas Summer League, July 12th through the 22nd. Cavs are reigning Summer League champs, for whatever that's worth. Why didn't they hang a banner like the Lakers did for that in-season tournament? I'll leave you with that thought, something to think about until next week. Until then, have a great week, and we will see you then. Thanks for joining.